welcome back to the rest of the show. I think we have had a lot of serious conversations about AI, generative AI, agents. I think it is important to lighten up and not take things and ourselves so seriously. So we have Anjani Kumar. He's a partner with us and works in strategy and advice. And he has some very interesting generative AI examples on the lighter note. Anjani Kumar, please, on stage.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Hope you had a good lunch. I'm here to talk a little bit about both intended and unintended consequences of AI. And what I'm hoping to do is what typically happens after a heavy, hearty meal, lethargy which sets in. I'm here to try and dissipate that completely. When we were young, our parents used to tell us, be good, God is watching you. Now, when I have the same conversation with my kids, I say, be good, AI is watching you. If you think about it, it's become all pervasive. At our homes, we get instructions from Siri, we get instructions from Alexa, Netflix decides what we want to watch. On the way to office, Google Maps tells us how to save time. In the office, artificial intelligence filters, puts our email into spam. It tells us what's the most productive email to respond to. And it's frankly made life so much easier for us, almost like an unsung hero. And talking about life becoming easy, as a father of two teenagers, I need all the help I can get to make my life easy. And of course, both my teenage boys think they know AI a lot more than I do. And I was recently having a conversation with my younger son. He had an assignment from school to write an essay on AI. What else? And I said, why don't we sit together and have a discussion on AI? He, of course, knew better. He knew if we had a discussion, who would do the work? So he said, no, Daddy, let me use AI. I have to become better at AI. So let me use an AI tool. I said, OK, please go ahead. So there is a new AI tool that's in the market that you all know. It's called DeepSeeker. So I said, OK, go ahead, use that tool, and get it to write the essay for you. So this is how the conversation went. Of course, being a little gentle and courteous, my son told him that, look, I'm a grade 8 student. Can you write an essay for me? Of course, the tool was equally courteous and said, yes, of course, I can write the essay. But you know what? Before I write the essay, let's do a little bit of reasoning. Let's talk about what are the headings, what will impact, what will create the maximum impact for you when you go back to class. And he said, OK, this is it. And of course, he wants to ace it, doesn't want to put in the effort, and AI is the best tool, right? Which is why he refused to work with me. And the AI tool says, of course, I'll help you with it. This is how you write the essay. You have the introduction, you have the first paragraph, second, third, and fourth. Of course, he started to think this looks more and more like the conversation I would have with my father. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for an answer. So then he said, OK, enough of your gyan, enough of your theory. Now give me the answer. I need to go gaming with my friends. And I had fine-tuned DeepSeeker, given how good I am at AI. And this is what the model came back to him. So for me, this is AI nirvana. When the AI model tells my child exactly what I would have told him anyway. So it was, I really love the frustration on his face when he said, oh, I don't want to work with you because you'll make me do all the work. Now AI is making him do the work. So imagine if we could fine-tune AI to have a conversation with our children just the way we would have. Then, my elder son came to me and said, look, Dad, you say you're so good at AI. Why don't I do a quiz with you? Let's talk about all the Gen Z, Gen Alpha lingo. I said, OK, let's go ahead. He said, what does it stand for? So I said, of course, Everybody knows this. This is machine learning. He said, no, it's not machine learning. You're not talking my lingo. In my lingo, it's much love. So when I speak to my friends and I'm happy about something, ML means I'm appreciating what they're doing. And maybe we can do this together. So any guesses what sus is? Suspect. So I started with the standard definition, right? Supervised and unsupervised system. He said no. And he's been playing a lot of Among Us. And for all those here whose kids play Among Us and who themselves play Among Us, this is a term you use very frequently, which is, this guy looks suspicious. Maybe he's the killer, right? So I was getting a little frustrated saying, am I not catching up or is this too far ahead of my time? I said, no, give me something easy. He said, okay, say API. I said, this I know. This is something I've been hearing even before AI was a big thing. So I said, this is what it stands for. Again, he had a look of frustration on his face. He said, of course not. It's when you try to get a personal invite for a party that you're really, really desperate to get into. I said, okay, I really can't win here, but let me just power on. This I knew. I said, of course, this is something when a tool is looking at an image only once, trying to do an analysis and giving you an answer. So I said, it's object detection for you look only once. And again, this time he was like, he was almost at the desperation of saying, you are a dinosaur. You really have no clue the conversations we have, the kind of lingo we use. It's you only live once. I said, okay, maybe there is no nirvana for me in the Gen Z lingo. I said, let me plod on. So this, when I was in college, this typically meant a pre-placement offer. I said, pre-place. He said, no. Then I said, okay, proximal policy optimization, how some of the Gen AI tools work. He said, of course not. It's how you put your images when you're away on vacation. How do you tell your friends to put something online? How do you tell your friends that they want to see what you've been up to? And then finally he said, okay, these two you should get. I said, yeah, this is simple. This is variational autoencoder. So this is just the way some of the algorithms run. Again, no love lost. Again, finally he said, no, again, you're wrong. It is the awesome energy that you display. And finally, this is where my wife stepped in. And she said, if you can't answer this, then we have a problem. So I said, yeah, that was autoencoder. This is binary autoencoder. And then, as you all know, that's not what it stands for. Even in the AI lingo, nobody uses BAE for binary autoencoder. And the less said about my conversations with my wife after that, the better for me and for me to share with you. So then I said, OK, at least with my younger son, I had a win. I had AI nirvana. I got the model to tell him exactly what I wanted to tell him. But with my elder son, maybe it'll take me a little more time getting used to the kind of lingo he speaks. So maybe we'll get there. Maybe BAE is a start. The next thing I did was, as we've been traveling over cities, Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, we've been seeing all these funny ways in which AI is being used and people are using puns for AI. So think about dosa. How do you build AI into it? And of course, there are lots of chefs who want to, after fusion food, get everything that is the latest and greatest. So there is now dosai. Of course, bonsai is par for the course. But again, this is from a ChatGPT perspective. We've seen all versions of ChatGPT or Pakoda GPT and all of that. But again, Chai GPT is again something which is a good take. And of course, being from Bombay, I can't not do a pun on vada pav. But finally, I think the best one that I saw was at the back of an auto, which is this, which said, "Soch mat, bol dal, mera AI samajh lega." So he was very clear. Don't worry. Whatever you have in your mind, you tell me, I'll understand it. It's not that you have to express what I have to say. You have to tell me in as many words. You just say whatever it is. I have an autoencoder, whether it's binary or not, don't worry about that. I'll understand everything that you say. So, so that's been my time, and thank you so much for your focus and attention. And maybe I'll call Sangha onto the stage for the next session. And when they told me that the next session after mine will be agentic, I said maybe next year when we have this conference, instead of me, the way the agents are moving, maybe it'll be my avatar, maybe Anjani Intelligence. That's what AI really stands for, which will do the session. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Anjani. I think after lunch, all you need is such a beautiful take on AI. Now I'll bring on a little more serious stuff. So I think the next one we all are looking forward to. It's like we keep on saying, last time I had said new kid on the block. I keep on saying that in this, like, okay, Gen AI. Now the newest kid on the block, agentic. So next session, we let's throw some light on agentic AI. I think there are lots of questions. Happy to hear from the audience also if you have some questions. I think there's lots happening out there. What can be done? What cannot be done? Will it take up many things? Will it take out small part of the flow? Multi-agent and AI, what all is happening? So for me, my co-host Sangha is going to do the moderation. Sangha, please come in for this role that you're going to play. Along with Sangha, we have a very esteemed set, because they are the ones who are going to be at the answering end, because we as clients and our customers and enterprises, they ask the question. So Sundar Nagalingam, Global Director, NVIDIA. Sorry, I might have got your name fully long. Vishwa, here you go. So he's from AWS and SARC. So we have got all kinds of questions to be answered here, guys. Manohar Hotchandani, Reality Labs Partnership. Thank you, sir. Dheeraj, here you go. Thank you, my friend. And that's it. So we have 4 of us. Have a fantastic discussion, and happy agentic to you.
Thank you so much. Now, this session was by popular demand from all our clients, I was telling, on agentic. Like Laura said in the morning, in our survey, we did not have a specific question around agentic. It just came out from our clients and the CXOs we surveyed, and there is tremendous interest and energy around agentic. And currently, I think the latest takeaway so far has been AI, or Anjani AI for me. So thank you, Anjani, for that nice session. For the agentic session, we said, how do we do this? We can talk, Delloite can talk about agents and the client projects we are doing and the agents we are building for Delloite ad nauseum. But that would be a very Delloite internal specific take. We work with big tech all the time. They are our strategic alliances. We partner with them. We innovate with them. We take new solutions to our clients, to all of you, with our ecosystem and alliance partners. So I thought how best to do this by just inviting all of you. And I didn't have to look far. They work together. So they are a natural cluster. So, here we have from AWS, we have Viswajit Das. Welcome. He is the head of data and AI for AWS India and SARC. We have from Meta, Manohar Hotchandani. He leads Reality Labs and AI partnerships and all kinds of partnerships with GSIs. So welcome, Manohar. We have from Dheeraj Narang, who leads partners and alliances from Snowflake. And we have Sundar Nagalingam from NVIDIA. You still are amongst the top 3 valuable companies, I think, in the world, right? So, so let's go for a very interesting session. I will not do most of the talking. I will let our alliances partner do the talking. And with that, we will get to know the latest and greatest that is happening in the space and form opinions and thoughts ourselves. So welcome once again. I'll start with Manohar from Meta. With DeepSeek and everything else that is going on, there is a tremendous amount of interest from our audience and clients to understand open source, closed source, and how it impacts, what spectrum do they address, and so on. So, Manohar, who better to answer that than you?
Sangha, what happened to being gentle with the panelists?
We'll get to that, Biswa, very soon. But thank you, first of all, for inviting us. And to the audience, how many of you want to hear about open and close? Can you please put up your hand, which also is a good energizer after lunch? Okay, good. For the rest who don't want to, I'll still talk through it. No worries. I think this conversation is a long conversation, but to summarize it, I think both are very good for building a very healthy ecosystem. Why I say this, in the morning you heard very prominent personality talking about how India builds digital public infrastructure on open source. So Meta has released versions of Llama, which we've been doing for last 10 years under FAIR, but for last 2 years is what we had Llama. The first version was actually a research version, which a group of people came together in Facebook AI research and said, you could do wonderful things with it. And we went down that path of open source innovation for 2 reasons. Because one, open source actually helps to democratize significantly what can be achieved and in a faster period of time. And second, gets diverse perspectives into it. Now, some people will say, how does it work and who benefits? Why is Meta doing it and how does Meta benefit from it? So let me give you a view on three perspectives. Some of you are developers in the room, some of you are customers in the room, and some of you are basically ecosystem players in some shape and form. So let's take the developer view. When I give an open source ecosystem to a developer, there's no licensing cost. There's no cost of terms and conditions. They actually go and do what they want to. So they can go build their model, distill, infer, all in their private environment with data being controlled by them. That's the biggest thing that they can do, which basically helps in safety and transparency and a whole lot of other features that gets raised in AI. The second piece is Meta. How does Meta gain from it? We gain from it because everyone gains from it. So we also gain from it in terms of learning, not just at the SaaS layer, but also at the chip optimization layer in terms of how people are building it and how does it work. And third, ecosystem democratizes it. And I'll give you an example of it. 2018, we released a product called PyTorch. How many of you use machine learning framework called PyTorch here? At least quite a few. Their balance, I'm sure, would be using some form of machine learning framework. That is significantly a market leader. No one owns it except we contribute to it, and it's a Linux Foundation product that we give out. So we're very well entrenched in this open ecosystem because we believe that everybody gains from it and nobody gets to a particular point. But what I will summarize, Sangha, here is benefits on both are healthy, it builds the ecosystem, and that's what we want for a faster outcome to happen because majority of the customers need to move from POC to implementation.
I think POC to implementation is what is on people's minds, at least on the minds of our clients. And thank you for touching that. Sundar, may I have you speak through what are the agentic frameworks that are in here right now and how they are shaping up, how robust they are, how they work? If you can just educate all of us on that, that will be great.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to address all of you. Let me demystify the word agentic AI first, because I think that is the most used/misused word in the technology world today. Obviously, agentic AI is the next big thing in AI, specifically on generative AI. So what exactly does it mean? How does a modern organization work today? There is one person running payroll, there is one more person running HR, and there is one more person running taxes, and there is one more person running purchase, and so on and so forth. And these people have very individualized, defined skill sets. A purchase guy has a defined skill set, finance guy has another skill set, defined skill set, but they need to work with one another. The payroll guy needs to work with HR person, right? then only the organization, the enterprise will run smoothly. Now, imagine each of these Homo sapiens being replaced by AI agents. These AI agents are nothing but large language models, LLMs. There is a finance LLM, there is a payroll LLM, there is a HR LLM, there is a purchase LLM, etc., etc. And each one of them running individually, having their own skill set. A purchase LLM is fine-tuned, is trained and fine-tuned and guardrailed and RAG has been created for doing that specific function. Having said that, let's imagine a scenario, an ecosystem of 10 such LLMs, each one of them individually doing their respective jobs. Obviously, like human beings cannot independently function, independent of one another, these LLMs also need to talk to the next LLM, right? A payroll LLM has to talk to HR LLM, has to talk to purchase LLM, and so on and so forth. So creating a bridge between multiple LLMs and having an orchestration framework where there is a master LLM which takes care of the communication that is happening seamlessly between each of these LLMs. This is what is the fundamental of an agentic AI, right? Now, the interesting point comes here. It is not the LLMs that run the entire enterprise. They also need to coexist with Homo sapiens, like you and I, right? So how does that communication happen between the Homo sapiens who have been running the organization, who will continue to run the organization, and the LLM? What are the safety protocols that are there? What are the controls that are there? Where does who take a decision and whose decision overrides the other? This also has to be orchestrated once again through an LLM, right? So the seamless coexistence of multiple large language models, each one of them adept and skilled to do specific tasks, but having an ability to talk to one another, they coexisting with human agents, people like you and I, and ensuring that the work gets done seamlessly in a much more efficient way than what has been happening today. That is the future of LLM. Going a step further, so what happens when all these things, ecosystems work together? New data is generated. What happened to this new data? It goes and trains the existing database. And your entire LLM ecosystem, the agentic framework, not the LLM ecosystem, the agentic framework becomes better and much more refined, which generates new data, which again goes and makes the ecosystem better. So this is what we call as a data AI or a flywheel, data flywheel, where the data that gets generated from the ecosystem feeds the flywheel and makes it even better than what it was earlier. So this is how the agentic AI is shaping up, and this is going to rule the world. So
that is a great explanation for agentic AI. May I call upon Dheeraj you on shaping up now for this ecosystem to optimally work? Not all agents are born equal, right?
Yep.
Now agents are being evaluated. So what makes a good agentic framework? If you can put together the Lego blocks for us.
So I think I'll take one step prior to all the very, very complex discussions around agentic and so on. And I'll just say this, right? The way I see the way we see it as Snowflake is the whole AI world, the AI ecosystem, is nothing different from an orchestra. And think about it, everybody in this room has a role to play there. At the semiconductor level, you have NVIDIA. At the infrastructure level, and Viswa will hate me for that, you have AWS. They obviously do a lot of other things as well. You have Meta with their Llama capability, and we come in from a data foundation standpoint, data platform standpoint. The vision or the symphony comes from all the audience in the room. They are the ones who determine what they want to achieve as an outcome. And you are the conductor of the orchestra. You are the ones, Delloite is the one who brings it all together. The tune is set by them, but you make sure that it is delivered at the fundamental level. Now, what are the problems with respect to having this harmonious outcome? Fundamental problem is having data in place. Now, you could have a great agentic framework, but it will not fly unless you have your data in place. And that's the fundamental building block, the DNA of any strong AI framework. And what do I mean by that is essentially as organizations have matured, as they have gone down the path of bringing more tech into their ecosystems, whether they're a cement company, whether they're a tire manufacturing company or an aviation company, what has happened is they have built silos. There's a lot of silos. There's data which is resting in SAP. There's data which is resting in Workday. There's data which is resting in Salesforce. Hell, you move to cloud and data is resting between AWS, GCP, and Azure, right? How do you make it all talk together? And that's where a platform like Snowflake comes in, which harmonizes this as a serving layer. So you bring data into that platform, and then you start to visualize what is the art of the possible. Then you start to bring in the true secret sauce of your domain knowledge to identify those use cases, which you can take to production, which you can use with governed, harmonized data, and partners like you come in to help with your skill sets and build that on top of that.
That is a very, very nice, both artistic and technical way of putting the entire ecosystem. Thank you, Dheeraj. Viswa, how does it all come together and collaborate? I think who better than you? You know, AWS touches us in more ways than one, and Amazon as always. But how would you bring together this collaboration to life? Because I think the AI space is so complex that it takes a lot for it to come together and drive.
So number one, the easiest thing is, by the way, just for everyone, this is the most comfortable panel I've ever been in because we just know each other as individuals, as organizations, which is why this is also the most underprepared panel ever. We just walked onto stage. So if you look at it, right, like he touched on this, if you look at it every layer, and I'm trying to find a simile in my head of what. So let's take the internal combustion engine, one of mankind's greatest advancement in mobility. Have you ever heard of somebody buying an ICE, buying an engine, sitting on top of it and driving off? Does that happen? Somebody had to build the chassis, the carburetor. Heck, somebody had to build the windshield wipers and the seats and the air conditioning for the car. Where does this all come together, right? Essentially, what you would need to be able to do, and I'm talking beyond POCs, I'm talking on production grade, multiple workloads, right? What do you need to be able to bring it all together? You need the ability to orchestrate the right, most efficient, purpose-built hardware for those workloads that you're choosing because, and Sundar is the best person to tell you, we are creating purpose-built hardware for different types of workload. You need access to not just the newest, but also what is the most effective and efficient model for your workload, which is something that Meta brings. You definitely need a data foundation because otherwise everything else is a pipe dream. See, India is the land of jugaad. You do a POC, हम तार वार जोड़ के POC पार कर देते हैं, right? When it goes to production is when it actually hits the road. So therefore, what does that mean? That means you need unified access to analytical databases, transactional databases, cache databases, streaming databases, object stores, because that is that's all of this, right? You need to be able to use it. So therefore, you need a platform which gives you multiple things. Number one, like I said, these 2-3 things. It also additionally needs to give you access to knowledge bases, integration with vector databases, so that you can do RAG, right? It needs to give you the ability to build guardrails. So can you lower block hallucination, objectable, content? It needs to give you orchestration and unified access across the entire data continuum, from ingestion to actual output, right? And that's where you would lean on somebody like an AWS. But finally, if you ask me very honestly, right? See, your business is not to work on the cloud. Your businesses are largely, you build tires, you run airlines, you run manufacturing organizations, banks, financial organizations, right? And it is somebody like Delloite who brings that domain knowledge to the table, because you have to work backwards from businesses. There is no technology for technology's sake. And they also will finally bring the implementation muscle to the table, right? So actually, Sangha, you are the ones who stitch it together. We don't. We build between us, we build the bricks, cement, iron rods, etc. We never build the house. You're the ones who build the house.
Thank you for the vote of confidence. I think we don't do it without our strategic alliances and partners and the technology prowess. So here's what we will do. We'll do a rapid fire, 2 questions each. and then we will open it up for for 2 to 3 questions. Ladies and gentlemen, this is big tech for you. So please think of your questions while I do a rapid fire. We'll start from that corner, Biswa,
Well
with you.
done.
One trend and one recommendation from POC to scale.
I'll go the recommendation first. I'm going to just pick off, like I said, we are very underprepared. I'm just going to pick off what other people said. I loved what Sundar said, right? That, we keep talking about software and hardware. What about wetware? Human beings, X% water, so therefore I call us wetware, right? So when you really want to scale this, how I see organizations using Gen AI in any of its myriad forms, think of it, picture an inverted pyramid, right? At the top will be organizations who will be using Gen AI embedded into applications that they already have. So embedded into your ERP systems and embedded into your CRM systems, etc. So you don't really need to care about it, right? Just below it will be organizations who, for want of a better word, will use advanced prompt engineering. Let's just call it that. I do not like that word, but let's call it prompt engineering, etc. Just below that will be organizations who realize maybe that's not the output I want, and they will go down to saying, I need to do RAG-based workloads, and therefore they'll go there. Below that will be organization who say, now I need to actually, it's a great model, but it's not there, and I need to fine-tune the model. And the absolute bottom will be organizations who will say, I will create my own LLM. Now, time, effort, and talent is inversely proportionate here. As an organization, we need to decide, and we'll sit across various of those, pyramid structures. We need to figure out where are we going to sit a lot, and then invest in the talent, because the starting point for that talent when you upskill them is different across the pyramid, right? So if you figure out where do we need the mass, and then therefore, adapt, adopt, build, get, whatever, however you want to get the talent in. Because everything else is theoretical thinking. If you don't have hands on wheels who are going to do it for you, whether yourself or as a partner, it's all a pipe dream again, right?
Awesome. Sundar, one trend and one recommendation for POC to scale.
Recommendation, just go. I give you 2 nice websites, fantastic ones. They are free to use. Please go ahead and play around with it, and ask your kids also to do it. ai.nvidia.com, build.nvidia.com. I repeat, ai.nvidia.com, build.nvidia.com. There is so many good tools which are educative and interesting. I mean, that's a rare combination, educative and interesting, okay? Just go and play around with it, and a lot of concepts you will understand once you play around in these 2 websites. Trend. The big trend that is going to happen soon is the amalgamation of physical AI and digital AI, right? Physical AI and digital AI, they are going to amalgamate soon. And this is something which big companies are all working together. And soon there will be factories which are like completely without human being. And please don't get into this question, is this good or bad? I'm not sure about it. I mean, I have 2 sons, so I'm also equally worried about their future as you are. But then, this is a big trend, the amalgamation of physical AI and digital AI.
Awesome. Manohar.
I think they all talked about trends, so let me talk about recommendations, because it's here and now. For me, every technology trend is here and now. So for me, please try. If you haven't tried, don't wait. There's no perfect moment. And if you have done the POCs, move to production, again, no perfect stage. And to supplement a lot of that, on the open ecosystem, what we've done is also build Llama Stack, which is also hosted on the partner containers for you and everyone else that we work here. Because a lot of feedback came to us in terms of saying, how do we do an end-to-end application? So please use Llama Stack. It helps you with a whole lot of open AIs that are there in a stack format that you can pull in command line interfaces and start to build applications with ease. So my sincere recommendation is please go try it in case you haven't tried it, because a lot of things that they are saying will actually start to manifest in that for you to try it. So it's easy now. Please go and do it. Give us feedback. We'll make it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Manohar. Bring us home, Dheeraj.
So,
One trend and one recommendation.
they're much more technical people than me, so I'll try and keep it very, very simple, right? The way I see, as far as trends are concerned, one thing which will start to happen, and is already happening to some extent, is the multimodal nature of AI. What's going to happen is the physical to the digital, or the analog to the digital, or the unstructured to the structured, whichever way you look at it, AI will start to form that bridge. Think of, tons of claims data which is lying on paper. Acco's starting doing this with amazing, claims within minutes where they're taking a photograph and saying, you know what happened? Let's just pay your claims off immediately. We work with the largest general insurance company in the country, who basically are looking at all their past claims data. So what I'm trying to say is that essentially the physical world, making sense of it, which used to take a 6-month project, a 1-year project, and possibly a few crore rupees in development costs, will start happening in minutes. That is the trend that will start to happen. Anjani gave that very good example of his son sort of going into DeepSeek and doing all of those things. A 17-year-old kid can actually write those kind of SQL queries and get that out of the box, right? A second trend that will happen is models will get a lot better. I mean, I'm pretty sure you recruit from the best schools in the country. I'm also sure that you give them a target that you have to be right 100% of the time. Today, models, you're not entirely sure when they're going to be right or wrong. It's not about whether they're right or wrong. You don't know when they're going to be right or wrong, and that is the hallucination part of it. And that's where I think the biggest challenge today happens, where we are not sure. If your analyst did that, I'm pretty sure they won't complete their notice period. In a sense, models will get a lot better. That will be the next big trend. They will get a lot cheaper. With what DeepSeek has taught us in the last 72, 96 hours, is that things can happen at a fraction of a cost now, versus what used to take hundreds of millions of dollars. And what that will lead to is what is called the Jevons paradox, which will essentially mean more usage, which will mean AI will become much more pervasive. So to bring it back together, it will become multimodal. You will have many more use cases which were unheard of because the hurdle rate was very high. It will become low. People will start to adopt. Recommendation, keep it very, very simple. Get your data in order. Today, there is no AI without data. There is no AI strategy without data strategy. If you think, and if you go back into your respective organizations and say, you know what, do I have a data platform in place? Do I have a framework in place on which I can analyze this data? Chances are you may not have it. It may not be a single harmonized governed framework, and that is going to be the most critical part of it. So in a sense, the recommendation is get your data in order and then start to experiment, start to build those use cases.
Awesome. If I were to just summarize what would be a trend that I see and what would be a recommendation, the trend that I see that the lines are blurring, across the tech stack that our, elite big tech just articulated, the whole stack matters. The lines will keep blurring, which is why the collaboration across different players will be very, very significant and important. My recommendation would be that the fundamentals have not changed, the reliance on data, the focus on trusted and secured AI, and the closer correlation to business impact. So that will continue to be there. And so long as we stay focused on these in our AI journeys, we'll be just fine. We have 5 minutes, and we have big tech here. We'll take some questions for them. First come, first serve. Yeah. Someone can... Yeah.
Hello. Hi.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hello. Hi. It was a very nice talk. I'm Ishant, and I'm also working on GenAI technologies, building cool products for our customers. My question to the panel is, as agentic AI systems become more integrated into critical sectors, how are your organizations addressing the challenge of ensuring transparency and explainability in AI decision-making processes? What measures are being implemented to maintain human oversight and accountability, particularly in the high-stakes applications?
Loaded. Go for it.
I can take that. So NVIDIA has a framework for creating a generative AI pipeline, starting from data curation to taking a foundation model like Llama. Llama 3.1 is the heartthrob of the technology world today, right? And giving it domain adaptive pre-training if it needs very, very domain-specific training, and then you fine-tune it. And then comes the steps that are necessary for achieving whatever you said. You need to impose the right guardrails and connect it to the right database by creating a RAG pipeline and create an elastic ecosystem through which it can be deployed at scale. So this entire data sciences pipeline from a generative AI perspective is what is supported by tools like Nemo from NVIDIA, and there are other tools also in the industry, right? So the most important point here is that how do you ensure explainability? That also depends upon the way, the efficacy with which you are building the pipeline. The amount of guardrails that you are imposing into the entire data sciences pipeline. And there are multiple tools that are available. It's impossible to describe them in a minute, but the tools are there. Are they like 100% mature? Can they assure you 100% explainability and other things today? Absolutely no. It is an evolving field, but we are getting there soon. Yeah.
So just to add to that, right, one of the quickest way for you also, like I keep saying, right, only doing is doing, nothing else is. So therefore, so if you'll go into Amazon Bedrock, for example, it gives you the ability to overlay your organization's AI ethics, and every organization should have their ethics and principles onto it, which sort of then filters out a lot of stuff that you don't want. It ensures who gets access, who doesn't get access, right? You'll also have partners like Delloite. They have a couple of great assets on explainability, etc. So trailing back answers to what is the origin of the data, so on and so forth, right? And increasingly, and this is the most contracted evolution cycle of a technology I've ever seen in my life, right? Increasingly, you will see that being built as a part, embedded into platforms like Bedrock that you'd get to use.
So, Ishan, I'll just add 2 or 3 more points to this. Fundamentally, the onus is on you as the developer, as the engineer. There's 3 things that you need to fundamentally remember. These are great platforms, great tools, right? But you need to have an engineer's mindset while you're creating agents, because essentially you cannot hope that the product output that you will get will be 100% of the time correct. It won't be. So you will need to have a release process in place. You will need to have a framework which tells you, A, how much is accurate, how much is the accuracy percentage that is acceptable to my users, and when they will be hallucinating, right? Having a sense of that, and then improving on that, right? So release framework, an accuracy framework, and the third one is citations. Having a very clear view on what is the source of that information on which an agent is taking action. Now, when you have one agent talking to another, obviously that adds to more complexity. So I think it should be crawl, walk, and run. Fundamentally build that process, build that system, which allows you to address your business requirements at the underlying level, and then go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more question.
Hi, I have a very offbeat question. So when do you see this agentic AI going rogue?
Rogue.
The question is agentic AI going rogue?
Well, I think we're still some distance away, I think, before we enter into a dystopian Westworld kind of scenario where agents go out and start fighting with each other and start suing each other on our behalf. I think what will happen, though, is agents will start to take some autonomous decisions. At the fundamental level, there are 3 things that agents will need to have. And I keep saying agents, it reminds me of the Matrix, right? But it is going to be around autonomy, adaptability, and business or goal orientation. Those are the 3 fundamental rules. If you set that right, AI is not at any point in time in the near future becoming sentient, where they are going to start to create versions of themselves and then start to bring in GPUs so that they can keep conquering the internet. That's not going to happen just yet. But what will happen is they will make life easier for a lot of us. They will make, whether it is solving for business needs, whether it's solving for buying grocery or getting from point A to point B, that will happen. Things will become a lot easier there.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that he's the one who said AI is not becoming sentient. None of us are putting our crystal balls to that one, right? But I just think the moment we talk about any of this, right, we immediately jump to science fiction scenarios. Agentic AI's first use will probably be in enterprises where we know there is a finite number of scenarios and decision trees out of each action, right? What we need the agent to do is actually trigger the action, which is now something that a human being does, and then therefore multi-agent, so on and so forth. Now, these are finite universe of actions and results. And therefore, it's almost like in Amazon, we call it a two-way door. You walk across, you can walk back. It's not a one-way door where they switch off all our electricity and we die, right? So maybe that's one way of thinking about it. We'll get to the science fiction scenario, but that's a bit off from now, I think.
Okay. Okay, I will take one last question.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, please speak.
Reliance almost, right? That, that people have. You ask a question, it looks more meaningful, it probably answers better than probably like a friend or another human. And at some point, it is going to screw up, right? And a lot of the organizations have, fear of adoption because, you don't want to use these, helpers in critical business processes, right? So this over-reliance risk, and like, how do your organizations think about, and what are you building to overcome that? Because, explainability can be there, but as you start to trust, the frameworks that you're building, you'll stop looking. You'll just, there might be sources that'll say, okay, I, got this data from Wikipedia, this is how I got it, but actually that link was made up, right? Because it, generated, which is not a bug, right? But it's a feature. But how do you kind of get over that?
So I see that question on two levels, by the way. One is the question that you ask, and I think the subtext is it also making us stupider, right? I'm guessing that's what you're also asking, right? I will answer the first one and then the second one. The first one, I think, is think of any large, really game-changing thing that happened. Look at UPI, for example. I remember my parent being very reluctant to actually do an online transaction when it happened. It was a lack of trust. When the technology matures, there is enough adoption and there are enough safeguards around it, right? And this is a collective responsibility. Trust exists, right? Trust happens. That's how trust builds any which ways. When we meet the first time, all of us trust each other because we are in this together. We know that we are tied to each other at the hip. The first time we met each other, we weren't. And therefore, that trust didn't exist. So all I'm saying is, there's a huge amount of muscle, very intelligent people, and very aware people who are all collectively also working towards it. There will always be the X malcontents that we hear about, right? The second is it making it us collectively stupider, right? And I was asked this question yesterday on stage, which is why I sort of resonated. I said, in the 1960s, if you bought a car, the car manual would tell you how you can adjust your carburetor. Today, when you buy a car, the car manual warns you not to drink the battery acid, right? The linear thinking analysis out of this is we have become stupider. Is that true? That's not true. In the 60s, if you bought a car, garages were, far and few. It was very expensive to maintain a car. So actually, knowing how to adjust a carburetor was an essential skill. Today, how many times does your car go for servicing, a new car? Probably once a year. It's no longer an essential skill. But we live in a more just, more transparent society, right? Justice, more people have access to justice. However, there is a flip side. There are also people who take advantage of this. Therefore, these warnings on coffee cups saying the coffee is hot, of course it's hot, right? And therefore, that's the flip side of it. But the idea today is how we acquire and how we store knowledge has changed. When I was in college, the only way to acquire knowledge was go to the library. The only way to store it was memorize it. Today, that has changed. And therefore, if the next generation is not doing it because they have a better way to access faster knowledge and store it easier, then that's the new way to do it. Yep. It's not making us stupider.
Want me to add quickly?
Yeah.
I mean, the easiest way to ensure that is to ensure that you put in the right guardrails for that.
Yeah.
That is the easiest way to do it, and it is an evolving field. It is a very advanced field. Many times when you hear the term guardrail, many people imagine that it is weeding out unparliamentary content, weeding out child unfriendly content. That is just not guardrails. That, of course, is guardrail. It goes much beyond that. There's something called as a topical guardrail. Say, for example, if you ask the question, what is an egg? A simple question, what is an egg? An LLM that is meant for a chef is going to give you a different answer than an LLM that is meant for an ornithologist, for a biologist, right? The answer that is given to the chef will look very weird for an ornithologist because that is not the answer he is looking for. So topical guardrails is also a very important, a very upcoming field. So ensuring that the right guardrails are imposed, and it is a very advanced field, evolving field, is the only way to ensure that, to pick up your own words, to ensure that an LLM doesn't screw up.
I'll just add a final one to this. AI has been there for a long time. AI has done a lot of journey, and AI will cover a lot more journey. I'll just give you this to your answer. All the recommendations that you got on platforms like Meta, Facebook, came via an AI built at the back. It got better and better and better over a period of time. Similar way, newer technologies will get better and better and better. I think to his point, let's crawl, walk, and run, depending on what you want to achieve at the end of the day. I think that's most important, but data considerations are critical to your point. If you don't do that well, a lot of that will be out bad.
Yeah, I think we cannot stop the march of technology, but with the guardrails that all of them have in their tools and the guardrails that people like Delloite we build for our clients should make it for trusted and secure AI. So thank you so much. It has been a great pleasure, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, Sangha. Thank you, folks. That was a very, very enlightening session. So I know there is a lot of buzz in the audience. Maybe we are discussing different applications of agentic. And hope this session has given you more clarity. When you go back, there'll be more questions and some answers. Please discuss it, as I say, on the hashtag Delloite AI Forum. So now my pleasure to call on stage my friend, known him from the industry for a long time. He has this unique, I would say, interesting problem at hand where he has multiple companies, different sectors, and he has to evangelize and execute analytics for all of them. He is the group analytics head for Aditya Birla Group. Welcome, Pankaj, here on stage.
I think this, it's on, so I can use that.
Okay, all yours.
Thank you very much. They were trying to give me a blazer to blend into this circle, and I said, that's okay. I think you should tolerate some diversity in this forum. So what I'll do today in the next 10 minutes is share with you my journey in an Indian conglomerate, ABG. I think the morning session started with what's going on in India. I look at ABG as a microcosm of India. Just some quick numbers. 110 billion market cap group. 40 billion is contributed by Ultratech cement company. 20 by Hindalco, aluminum. Another 20 by Grasim, diversified company, makes fibers, insulators, stuff like that. Another 12 by Vodafone. Around 8 or 10, depending on how you count, Aditya Birla Capital. 4 or 5 is Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail. So contrary to popular perception among my friend group, who think of Aditya Birla as a retail company, the contribution of those retail businesses between fashion and finance about 10, 15, less than 10%, right? So that's the construct. So I have been in this group for around 3.5 years. What I'll share today is my own journey as a central COE, lessons learned, frameworks created, things that you can use. So I joined in the COVID time. Didn't know what I was joining. We are sitting in Bangalore, about 50, 60 people, another 40, 50 contractors, about 100 odd people sitting here. This team was constituted 7, 8 years ago because BCG told Mr. Birla that data is the new oil and you better create this capability. So my predecessor, Deep Thomas, who walked in from the Tata Group, created this company, this team, and then he left and I joined in. So we are a 6, 7-year-old corporate function. When I joined, I think we were still struggling because COVID had hit. No one understood this team sitting in Bangalore, what they did. They were like some data science type people who people hadn't seen because people are not traveling and so on. So that's where our journey began. So what does a new corporate function do in a large conglomerate like this? our people will go to businesses and say, you know what, we are data scientists, we are data engineers, we can solve problems for you. And someone will give them a problem to solve. So when I came in, there were different problems being solved using data science. So someone in Ultratech was solving a problem of logistics. Can I make your logistics better? We spent 20,000 crores on logistics over there. Someone in Hindalco was solving the energy problem. 30% of aluminum cost is energy, so you were trying to solve the energy problem. In Aditya Birla Capital, someone was trying to do something related to healthcare. We have a health insurance company, so reduce fraud and stuff like that. So there was a host of projects happening. And there were some enterprising people within our team who also felt that we can create a data platform which can get sold out in the market. So anyway, so first of all, I told our people that let's not think about selling anything. Let's first build our own muscle. It's the central COE. Our job is to be a coach and enable our teams to become better. And let's not think about a service-oriented business. So I think we focused our engineering team also on what our businesses are. So the way we are organized is our data science team is aligned as a consulting team against businesses. So there's Abhishek for Hindalco or Vishy for this one or Vanilla for something else. So our people are working with businesses to say, what is your strategy? What are the key elements of the strategy where AI can solve? Where can we help? So that's the approach that the data science takes, solves problem, does a POC. The data engineering team that takes that POC, operationalizes it, BOT it to them, and keeps a copy which can then be reused by others. So that's the approach that we have followed. So in terms of problem solving, our folks are solving for all the group companies. But in terms of the data engineering team, they are creating what we call data platforms which are reusable, which are in the area of predictive maintenance, logistics, quality, and what have you. So net-net, what we are trying to create, or we have been trying to create, is data platforms which are IP, which can be reused. A paint business gets launched. Bunch of stuff is already there. You don't have to restart everything. You can take some of these things one first. So that's what we have been doing. Now, 6 months ago, we started to feel that adoption or alignment to strategy may or may not be happening in the best way. So we had some brainstorming session to say, how do we convert this into a more holistic, reusable capability that all of them can use? So the inspiration came from my own experience of being in General Electric company. So GE was very famous for Six Sigma. I used to be a black belt back then. And the way we solved a conglomerate problem was to create a common language for Six Sigma. So some of you who have gray hair like mine or lost hair like Debashish would remember that the DMake was the common language for Six Sigma. Define, measure, analyze, improve, control. And whether you were aircraft engine or super abrasive or capital or cards, you would use DMake. So DMake was the binding factor for General Electric to drive this culture of Six Sigma. So we said, what is that ABG common language that everyone can use? Because here also you would go to people and say, we are Cement and we are Vodafone or we are Fashion. There's nothing that binds us, and what can we do? So that was the problem statement that we had. So long story short, we had a lot of brainstorming sessions and stuff like that. Now we have a sort of a 3-layered framework that we have come up, based all bottom up on what we have done. So there's nothing that we have borrowed from Delloite or McKinsey or anyone else. We have said, what is the pattern that we see in what we do, and what can that framework be called? So the framework really is called a 3W framework: ways of thinking, ways of working, ways of doing. How do you think about strategy? What is your operating model, and what do you do? Now, if you look at each of these layers, they have some boxes. So there are 3 boxes in the bottom, there are 4 in the middle, and 3 at the top. So there's a 10-box framework. So we're saying these are the 10 capability boxes everyone has to have to really become a full-stack team or a company, and so on and so forth. Now, the bottom layer is the easy one. You have data science, data engineering, data architecture. And that's the type of people we hire. And that's working very well. People are doing a great job. We have data platform, we have data projects, we have good architecture, all of that. I think the other 2 layers, the top layer really is the strategy layer. Have you done workshops to derive the most critical problem that is worth solving or the most innovative one? And that's one box where we have done a lot of work and created frameworks too. How do you conduct workshops? How do you conduct those to figure out the key priorities and align projects from there? How do you do governance? How do you do AI maturity assessment? So really, strategy, governance, AI maturity are the top 3 boxes. The middle one, which is the scaling and sustaining box, has talent, funding, adoption, and ecosystem. So all these 4 are very critical, as you can imagine. There's something to do with talent, something to do with funding, articulation of your ROI, how do you drive adoption, and how do you create a partner ecosystem. So what we have done now, across these 10 boxes, there are examples from across group companies. So Hindalco, in the talent box, has a program of 10 people from the factory coming to our team, doing a 6-month internship and going back. So that's one way they are strengthening the talent muscle. Aditya Birla Health Insurance took our advice on figuring out how to create their org design on the analytics side because they didn't have an analytics team. Grasim is trying something else. So in the talent box, everyone is trying different things, and all of them can be reused by anyone else. Should you have a data engineering team, or should you have a data science team? Should you have vendors? Should you have partners? All of that, right? Then you have the funding box. Funding is both sides. One is how much funding do you need, and how do you conduct this ROI assessment, and how do you communicate ROI? So there are lots of things. So for example, in Ultratech manufacturing, what we came up with that energy is a huge opportunity area, 100 crore opportunity. We will spend 2 crores across 10 projects, 20 lakh each. 8 of them will fail, 2 will succeed. So that's the approach. Earlier, they would do a project, the CFO will not give them money because that has failed. So we said, look at a portfolio approach. So this portfolio approach of ROI and experimentation created in Ultratech manufacturing can then be transported elsewhere. So box by box, we have good examples of what has worked in one company, and that can be translatable. So we are now looking at this 10-box framework as 10 muscles, and using the AI maturity model to measure where they are and determining how to go forward. And the analogy that I use are two analogies to sort of explain this is, one, I am a marathon runner. So I said, if I have to run the Bombay Marathon, I got to have my way of thinking, my intent to run. I got to train my limbs, which is my ways of doing. But my cardio has to be strong so that I can scale and sustain. So unless I do my thought process and my cardio and my limbs all in unison, I can't be a great marathon runner. Something we are telling our analysts, all of them are engineers. They are all naturally gravitating toward the ways of doing, which is the technical part of it. For them, the other two layers don't exist. So the way we are communicating to them, the top layer is really the strategy layer is humanities, the middle layer is commerce, and this is science. So we are telling them, you can't just be a full stack developer, you got to be a full stack human being, you got to add the commerce and the humanities layer on top of it to become what you want to become. So for all our senior folks, the larger portion of their goal is in the top two layers. You don't have to worry about the next model. And for the junior folks, 80% is here, but 10% is there. You sit in workshops, you sit in ROI calculation, you sit in talent discussions and all of that. So net, we have identified these 10 muscles, which we are saying are the key muscles that all of us has to build. Whether you are an individual, whether you are a team, whether you are a company, you can use this AI assessment framework to measure where you are today. And we have opportunities to help you go from one stage to another. So net, this 3W framework, I have a slide I keep sharing with everyone. Someone asked me, is this proprietary? I said, execution is proprietary. Otherwise, it's quite open source. So I'm happy to share that with you. And I hope some of you can apply it and try it and tell me, and I'll tell my own company because not everyone is adopting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj. That was a wonderful 10-block muscle that you very nicely articulated and gives us some lot of thought. I now invite Devu Ghosh and Vishal Dhupar to think about how to crack the code and the CEO's perspectives. So Vishal is the CEO of NVIDIA in India, and Devu is a partner with Delloite. And together, they will bring home how to crack the code. We all want to know how to crack the code.
Good afternoon. It's my honor and privilege to welcome you, Vishal. I don't think Vishal needs an introduction. He's one of the most recognized faces in the world of AI in India. I think he's ranked among the top 9 AI influencers by the Data Analytics magazine. And one person who has evangelized the AI use cases in every aspects of our economy, whether it's government, enterprise, and someone who has been at the forefront of adoption of AI in India and the entire NVIDIA journey. You've seen it very closely. So welcome to this session with this fireside chat with Vishal.
Thank you, Devesh.
Vishal, I think, let's first address the elephant in the room. We've been from the first session onwards, we've been hearing about DeepSeek. Yeah. So DeepSeek, they say week is a long time in history of certain aspects. So what's your take on DeepSeek? Because that's completely, divided the industry. It was moving in certain direction, and suddenly the DeepSeek came. Because first what came was Trump's grand announcement about Stargate, that really had caught everybody's attention. And suddenly the Chinese came with the DeepSeek. So what's your take on that?
Looks like after Transformer got introduced in 2017, attention is the most used word. But what a beautiful period of time. Isn't it truly, truly exciting? 2012, big bang of AI, a problem statement which has been upon us. How do we solve the problem of perception? Computer vision people have been trying for years and years, and on one fine day, deep neural networks, thanks to the work of Jeffrey Hinton, Alex Krasnowski, they discover a gaming GPU. And out comes this result, which is tremendously different. And even people like us who were in this business trying to solve the computer vision problem stood up and said, what really happened? However, we reasoned with that if there is a deep neural network that works on a GPU, on your and my data that we call digital experience, what is its implication? How far can it go? What can it do? And the answer was pretty simple, that this is a God-given opportunity. We got to embrace it. It seems no limitations currently. Unless your assumptions are totally wrong, there's nothing wrong unless laws of physics come into play and other elements come into play. So from 2012, great work happened, lots of good stuff happened, and we learned to overcome some of the challenges that were associated. The introduction of Transformer brought in another excitement. Not only did it teach us how to understand the meaning, the representation of the underlying data, but it also allowed us to move from one modality to the other modality and exchange the meanings from one place to the other. Imagine that you can now understand a structure of amino acid and you can talk the language of protein so that you and I can stay healthy. That's the determination that took place. Models were getting built fundamentally because it came to our conclusion, the bigger your model, it's like having an Einstein mind and you giving him more and more inputs so that you can have Einstein outputs. So the bigger the brain, the bigger the inputs, the better the model, the more the inputs. That became a mechanism by which models were getting created. What did DeepSeek show? There was one side of the world where there was abundance of resources and we did it. The DeepSeek showed us that how do you do things in a constrained manner? And these two things are just wonderful example for science. So 10 years to 12 years has been all about science, what the science needs to do at a fundamental level. I believe now we stand at a junction where it's application of the science. So we're moving from fundamental science to the application of the science. We're talking about use cases, and it's all upon us. How do we benefit from this tectonic shift, this seismic shift that has taken place where we used to write software hand-coded. Now the machines help us to write the software. So the software is writing the software. And that's the way you should look at it.
No, it's absolutely. It's like really one of those fundamental changes that we have probably seen in last many 100 years. It's almost on the scale of electricity or internet. And when interestingly, I've been in the energy sector. One of the things is when electricity was invented, first came DC, which is Thomas Edison came with it. When the AC electricity came by Nikola Tesla, Edison wanted to prove him wrong by, electrocuting mice all over New York to say that it's more dangerous. So, but it's so fundamental that it changed everything, the use cases of electricity. Similarly, I think, GenAI will change the industry after industry. Like you mentioned, I think from drug discovery, molecules would take probably 7-8 years. Now, it'll probably happen probably 1/10 of the time. So it's a fundamental change. But coming back to NVIDIA, from a GPU supplying to the gaming industry, how has been this journey? And now this entire change of NVIDIA's presence in across the value chain. It's been quite a staggering, and suddenly probably last 3-4 years when the stock market discovered, probably a lot of people caught the trend, but it was like it was a staggering kind of a arrival in the scene kind of a thing. How do you see that journey?
I see Sundar sitting here, smiling. He's only been taught, don't worry about the scorecard, just think about the game plan. There have been days when the stock market makes you a better recall. There are days when it doesn't, but that's not what it is. 1993 is when NVIDIA got established. The observation that was made at that time, that if you look at the software code, 90% plus code is serial. You write software on a CPU in a sequential way, and it does a wonderful job, but there is approximately 8 to 10% of the code that occupies 90% of the computation. Now, wouldn't it be just wonderful if there were two processors, one dealing with parallel compute, the other with sequential compute? If that was to happen, that would be the most optimum way to build a computer. Question was, what were the applications? And one of the core applications was computer graphics. And in computer graphics, when you form companies, and I know that there are a few startups here who typically think about building companies which are long-term. Some believe that let's form a company and translate that into monetary gains and move out. But our belief was that let's build a company for long-term. If we build a company for long-term, always find a problem statement which will take years to do. And for computer graphics to come closer to real world is a lifelong problem. And that's why our domain was computer graphics. Now, the larger question was, just because you have a big problem, what is a way that you're going to find a killer application? And that killer application was gaming. Why was it gaming? Because PCs are used by humans who work. And after using the computer when they go home, they play. So if I want a human to work and play, I should bring gaming to the PC. And to solve that problem, to make sure that people from the consoles can come to the PC, or we can bring console into the PC, you got to do it differently. That is to quickly solve problems which reduces the gap between the virtual world and the real world. So in net effect, the company was always established to solve hard computing problems that general purpose compute, which is built around CPU, could not solve. We solve problems in computer graphics. We spoke about computer vision. In 2012, GPU discovered AI. In 2024, AI is discovering the GPU, and the story just continues, solving one problem after the other problem, because none of you in this room, because I can almost guesstimate that all of you who are here have ever experienced any other computing fabric but the general purpose computing fabric. And this was actually introduced in year 1964 by IBM, because IBM came to this observation that the software has the value, and with every change of architecture, you should retain the value of the software. It got scaled during the PC revolution, what many people refer to as Moore's law. Every 2 years, you would reduce the cost of doing the same software by half. In other words, you had deflation allowing you to bring in more and more applications. And today, from 2012 onwards, it's been crystal clear that now is an opportunity to use scaling laws of a different level and bring intelligence, manufacture intelligence, and make our lives that much more productive.
It's much beyond now Moore's law in terms of the acceleration of the compute power and the cost reduction that we have seen in recent times. And as you articulated, I mean, NVIDIA is much more than just the GPU. You have your own stack around CUDA, around the foundation models, networking, storage, the whole lot of things which you offer to the client. So what's the advantage of having that entire range of things rather than just supplying the chip?
Right. But let me just step before that. So at the current moment, there are 3 scaling laws which are upon us. And the first scaling law, which is the pre-training part, which benefited the large language model, is a simple concept. The more you provide, the better is the result. And that continues to scale. The second scaling law, which is upon us, is that how do you ground it? Everybody spoke about when ChatGPT came, oh, it hallucinates, it's biased. But when you ground it with your own knowledge, what exists inside your organization, what makes you unique as a society, as a country, then the ground truth starts coming into play, and that's the second scaling law. The third one is the test time scaling law, that when you put it into implementation and everybody's using it, in what manner do you use? All these are compute requirements. And the way the compute was built up till 2015-16 was for sequential computing. It was in 2016 that NVIDIA realized that we'll have to change every single layer of computing. And they created a computer that is very well known among the practitioners called the DGX. The DGX was created for our own engineers. And it was also gifted to people who are in leading edge of research. So Jensen walked up in 2016 to Elon Musk at OpenAI and gave him the DGX. He gave that to Andrew Ang, and he gave it to several other researchers. But we started our journey. We started our journey saying that how do we look at problem statements and make our engineers work towards it? There were 2 problems, again, inspired by humans. Safe human and a healthy human. A safe human who someday, sitting in a car, coming into JW Marriott to speak to Debashish, does not have to worry where my clutch, where my brake is. I can comfortably talk to my colleagues, understand what's happening, the car drives me, and I come here safely. The second one was that if I can really understand why does the human cell malfunction, if I can predict it, and if I can find a solution to it, I'll have a healthy human. If a healthy and a safe human is in play, became the vision of our company, they needed tools to do this. And the tool that was built was the DGX. For the very first time in the history of computing, you had more GPUs talking to each other that outlived the number of CPUs into it. We reformed the algorithms, we reformed the networking, we reformed all of them, and we learned what it takes on the scale. And then, once we build this, we would dismantle them. We would dismantle them because the previewers of our technology would take them into their data centers, into their servers, into their computing need, and with their brand, put those parts there. And that's why we build, we dismantle, we enable, and we allow the world to prosper.
No, this is really fundamental. As Jensen says, something very fundamentally is changing in both in compute and the tech stack. Where do you see India here? I mean, we have been at the front end of technological adoption with our tech stack and our digital public infra and all that. where do you see India adapting? Because you've been part of a lot of this AI mission and you've been advising states like Telangana, you're an advisor to MIT. Where do you see India adapting to both in terms of the compute and the tech?
So India has a fundamental advantage. India has the software engineers, the industry rises from here. We know what services are. And I think it was skill-based services that we provided. Today, we have machines that need, machine learning is upon us. It's a different kind of computing. We want our skills to understand the machine learning part. And I think the opportunity, India is right in front of us. In 2018, there was a strategy paper published by the gentleman who was here in the morning, Mr. Amitabh Kant. And the strategy paper was AI for all. It was to make India the garage of the world. He also invited Jensen at that time to interact with the Prime Minister, with the entire cabinet, and all the bureaucrats that used to work in New Delhi at that time. There were about 1,500 of them. And the idea was to demystify AI and help India leapfrog on it. Our journey really began from there. And then in 2023, after COVID, we did a little bit of a dipstick check. And to the credit of Jensen and to the credit of the Prime Minister, Jensen made a statement that India is doing really well, both on the physical infrastructure as well into the digital transformation. But if they're lagging, we are lagging on the AI infrastructure. There is a need for India to be sovereign. You have the skill sets, you are historically a 5,000-year-old culture, your common sense, your sensibilities are unique. You have to encode that, and we need an infrastructure. Most importantly, our nation has been built with 0.5% of the population that spoke the computer language, making us prosper, looking good the way we did. But what if we brought 100% of the population that could work with the computer? That's an ability that's available today because you can speak in your language. Even with my very bad English and grammar, I can speak to computer today and computer can program. If we have to do that, this is opportunity India. So we have national initiative. Some of you probably read today that India AI mission is on. There are companies which have bid. It is under the public-private partnership where the capacities which have been built based on the same dialogue that took place with the Prime Minister over last year or so is now going to be available to the nation. The government is going to incentivize people to use it, and hopefully over the next few days, people will have capacities that are available. So just like, and Bangalore is an interesting topic. I came into Bangalore in '84. I never used to think there was a need for dividers ever. Now I think there's a divider every inch telling me to only stay in my lane. Same thing, we brought in the infrastructure, we brought in the practices, the government is ready to subsidize it. We want people to now start translating their ideas into reality. And I'm quite certain the government will inspire. But most importantly, you live in a nation where there are challenges and challenges which are giant. Think about solving this problem at a giant level. Think big and come and let's solve this problem together. And we will find solutions, just like how we found a solution for transactions. I think the gentleman, I think it was in Sundar's panel, you spoke about UPI and the trust. It happened. We now can be identified with unique numbers. We now know how to get our tax income. Let's think about big problems. Let's come and solve those problems. I think in India, let's get going. Everything is in play.
One of the things Mr. Amitabh Kant, in his opening remark, lamented about is the Biden administration's last executive order, categorizing India in the second category, which puts a restriction on how much access to GPUs we can have. So how do you think that getting played out? Do you think that Trump administration will change that, or do you think that that will put a limit on, really the AI journey that India will have?
Just like you, I can only speculate. Unfortunately, I can't put my hand on his shoulders to ask him that question. But the truth is this. The diffusion regulation comes into effect on 15th of May. The diffusion regulation puts India amongst tier 2, which is 150 other countries. And it restricts the number of computers that can, or the GPUs that can come into any nation. It also restricts nations on the kind of models that you can use. And once again, India, in addition to the opportunity, has a challenge in front of it. And I do know, having grown in this nation, that we know how to work against challenges and do things that become envy of the world. So this is our opportunity. Let's take advantage of what it is. Let's not just do commentary. There are people in our government, there are people who are interested. They will continue to help us out. And I'm quite certain, if our work speaks well, if we can be the world which exports intelligence from this country, I'm quite certain there's going to be no constraint.
Day before yesterday, Romal and I, we were in Orissa, in that Invest Orissa event with Minister Ashwini Vaishnav, and he assured that within months we'll get to hear about the India LLM. So that will be an exciting thing to wait for. And I think in the previous panel, they were talking about mostly the agentic AI. But here we have a lot of clients who have come from corporate India. So two things about the enterprise side of the AI journey. First, I will ask you about on the compute side, on the data side. So, I mean, all the enterprise now will be looking at what will be the strategy around, whether it is cloud, whether it's a hybrid cloud, whether data in-premise, now whether to have their own GPUs, buy a few stacks. What's your take? That will be an interesting journey, because that also will drive the kind of cost it's going to cost, because a lot of bank CEOs have told us that, like cloud, the uncertain part of the cost element, it becomes they don't understand it. So what they have told is that they are pretty skeptical about the cost of AI that's going to hit them. So one element is very sensitive element is this, that what should be their data and the compute strategy.
I think he actually referred it pretty well. I would like every single leader, in whichever form, to firstly understand the data pipeline. We got to understand data, and you did a pretty good job on that, so don't want to take away what you stated, but it is so critical that if we understand as a leader what is data, what is it supposed to do, how do you munch it, how do you curate it, how do you blend it, what are we trying to achieve, then there are many people in the company who know the strategy. There are so many think tanks who will tell you what needs to be done. So absolutely critical that as a leader, we got to understand what is this pipeline of artificial intelligence. And it starts on the data pipeline. Second thing, it is absolutely critical that to understand AI was born in the cloud. And native AI is going to bring a lot of glory, but we also have to take traditional applications into AI. And that's what we need to understand, how we're going to be making those changes. Then comes the third element, which is what you're asking about, the cost. It's not too difficult to work out on the cost. And therefore, it's upon us that let's stop thinking about data centers, which were storage warehouses. Let's start thinking about AI factories. Just like in the age of manufacturing, factories generate revenue, AI factories generate revenue. You take your and my digital experience, what people call data, you put that data onto an algorithm, outcomes, floating point, tokens, intelligence that can be infused. If you own the AI factory, you own the IP to that usage. It keeps you unique. Whether you are a bank, whether you are a large conglomerate, you function differently. And I think the easiest way, at least I try and understand it, look, all of us went to different schools. We went to different schools, but they were all set on curriculum. And within our approaches, we decided what we wanted to do. We prospered based on our talent. But when we went for employment, despite doing colleges, we were put into organization to learn the language of that organization. I'll give you an example. NVIDIA basically looks at marketing very differently. So we get a lot of these people, you tell them that we need to do a marketing blitz, the first statement they'll make is, give me dollars, I can do it. Sorry, I don't have dollars, but I still want to do a marketing blitz. They say, no, in my experience, unless you have money, you can't do it. And then you have to tell them, but in my experience, I've done these without money. And that amalgamation takes people some time. So not only is the fresh people, it's also the lateral hires which come to learn what your organization stands, and then you apply your experience in the context of the organization. It's exactly the same there. So as we continue to learn the context, as we continue to apply the uniqueness of the society that we live in, that's the differentiation. And that's why you require what the minister is saying, our own sovereign LLM. By the way, that's the beginning of the story. You will require sovereign LLM, you'll require domain LLMs, you'll require your company's LLMs, you'll require many more tools and techniques, and you will basically say that, hey, LLMs help generative AI to give you new content. Because of that, now you're moving into a world of agents where you can perceive, you can review, you can plan, you can act. And that's why agents are being spoken about. And then very quickly, you'll move into physical AI, where the AI will be grounded on physics. That's why robots will work. That's why 3D worlds will get created. That's where the economy will get created. All of us get really worried, oh, the world's GDP is 100 trillion. And you assume that it'll going to remain 100 trillion. Or even if it moves, it'll move by an inch or so. But humans created 100 trillion. Humans will create multi-100 trillion markets. There's an opportunity for everyone because with intelligence, all of us will become productive. What I would really love is India to be called the capital of intelligence. In fact, Bangalore should be the capital of intelligence, just like how Milan is called the fashion capital. Come, it's our opportunity. Let's start working on it. We can sit here, we can debate, we can keep giving commentaries. Let's get into it.
I think you're almost there. So if agents are going to do everything, rest of us, though, as somebody mentioned, there will be some Homo sapiens, but the rest of the Homo sapiens will probably be watching Patal Lok. And I mean, that's going to have an impact on the society. But I think India as a society, given its advantage in tech, probably it has a time where we can provide a lot of AI resources to the world. So that's where I think skilling and embedding this into curriculum from pretty early on, those things will be also important. And I'm told you met the education minister also. He wanted to discuss how to include this in curriculum from the beginning and take it to universities. So A lot of things are happening, but I think the screen is showing our time is up. So thank you very much, Vishal.
Okay, I'll quickly answer this. So this is something because there's a new computing fabric. It's called accelerated compute. Here, multiple specialty processors work along with the CPU. And we do realize that our awareness levels were not as compared to the rest of the world. So we worked at different university levels, pretty much all IITs, all NITs, all the private segment today really have the accelerated compute fabric. There's some wonderful skill sets that are coming. So take advantage of that. And I think that the only thing that's holding is us in this room. If we start applying everything, I think we'll create an opportunity. And the opportunity is going to be so good that you don't have to worry about taking a lawnmower and trying to get the golf course really nice and done. It'll all get done, and all of us will have better smiles. And the same lawn keeper will have much better income than what he does today. I'm very, very certain. So come, let's make a difference together.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the fascinating discussion. Thank you.
Okay. That was amazing. And I think so good to hear, very motivating, and good to hear about India, the capital of intelligence of the world. Now, the next session, I'm not going to introduce anything because I'm going to do the talking. The reason I have this is very nicely placed to what we have heard so far. And these are very short. I want to, in fact, finish it by 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and then open it to the audience so that there are questions around the same topic. The topic is, we've been talking of India, and we are one nation. We are driving towards, being the capital, being against the tide, where US is playing, not giving us chips and all. But do you know what is our strength? Our strength is we have been operating this big ship, making transformation in what we call many Indias. People in Unilever here, if you are in the audience, I remember we had the winning in many Indias, and that's something which I thought I'll take from there. For 5 minutes, let me just talk about this key theme. We all know many Indias is because we understand that every customer, every behavior, every dot on the Indian subcontinent has certain elements, right? And how does AI, Gen AI, and how the strides have been to make sure that we can use this strength and make and win and earn business in what we call many Indias. So typically, I'm just going to give some questions which everybody here, and I'm sure many of you in the audience have these questions. If you are in the same industry or similar in terms of abstraction, where can I find the next distributorship if it's a CPG or a FMCG company? And you want to also find where do I find a good performing distributor? According to me, according to my business, where do I find it? Or you as an NBFC, if you are the bank in the BFSI space, you want to spend your money where you want to find the audience, find your right customer because you are expanding. You want to produce the right product first. Or if you're an insurance company, you want to see where I should penetrate the, our child policies, where should I do it? If you are a grocery major, a very interesting one, if you look at many India concept, different festivals in our Hindu god calendar are celebrated at different time points in the calendar, right? So groceries typically would keep a particular local festival elements, items in front of the shelf. The vendors who produce it and are checking whether that is there on the shelf, because all the local people, it's a hyper-local. You talk about groceries, you will be walking the aisle looking for that puja item or the item which is of that particular area. We are not going to have Punjab and South India to be treated same. Now, why I'm saying all of this, or if you look at just a few more examples, fertilizer companies, I don't know whether, but we talked about art of possible in agriculture earlier. Land usage. Now imagine that variable, beautiful variable. Land usage in India, the seasons change, the land usage. If you have to use that data and try and predict something, can you imagine the diversity we are talking about? And of course, if you're a bank, it's us carrying credit cards. If you see your offers which come with you in the merchants to tie up with, highly localized. You have to have local merchants. If you are in Calcutta and there is Senco Jewelers, you have to figure out what we do about it. Now, why I'm mentioning these questions, if you abstract from it and just take a stock of what am I trying to get here. The point is that we have many Indias. That is reality. We have different customer behaviors, and that's our strength. Now, if I just take myself back to like maybe 4 years also away and see this, and I was trying to answer these questions, I would have a hard time first collecting the data at that micro level. There are data points. Data has always been there, by the way. The question is, how can you merge all of this to answer these questions? The second important element that is there in many India, AI in many India, is how do you scale it up? I mean to say, you might want to say, I want to go micro and do a very small, what we call local store marketing, right? How do we use AI to broad base the same strategy and do the same program across these small micro markets of India and yet get results? And believe me, when you do these smaller localized AI applications, the sum of the total is very, very good. So what I did was took a very simple example. This is some data, and I promise 5 minutes, which is there, and we can talk when we are outside of how this data is available. These are all from your searches of apps, and this data is out there, right? Now, this data is not so important. More important is on the map. If you place it and you see these two, what we call telecom people here will know geohashes. We know that the first place that has a very good search of health and fitness, and it has premiumness, it has got health and fitness. If you put it on the map, it also shows that this place is actually near all the gyms. The gyms have also got it right. See, sometimes Pure works, right? This proxy, what we call, right? The second one, again, it's a snacks, but look at this positioning. It is filled with kids, light snackers, and this retailer is really, really placed near the railway station in a transit. Now, why I brought this example up is very interesting. A transit location, if you see Bombay, though we are very, very familiar about people who walk out of the railway station, hurriedly pick up a vada pav and eat and go. If you are in a Pune or in an office location, you will see a lot of pickups, late night pickups. Groceries have changed their models. You need to be nimble. You have this late night pickup, your office, your wife is calling and saying that, or your husband is calling, just pick up the bread and the egg. You forgot. Just pick it up and go. Models have changed. Now, how can I capture? Now, these two are two, you might think these are anecdotes. No, these are two, I did not handpick them. I did not handpick them. This is a scaled up program for companies who are using this, where this is done and said, okay, can I go to the retailer and not sell health items? Please sell light snacks. Now, in that potential, believe me, there were feet on street who were going and trying to sell health items because that was their two focus items, jiske upar they have targets. I know all FMCG customers here will be smiling because they have these sales apps where you push 21 focus items. You sell them, you get money, and you're home. But bichara, he can't sell them, no. Because this is like a place where there are local light snackers who are passing that system. They're not health conscious people. Go to the place where there are gyms, no. Now, like I said, this is not handpicked. The machine is doing this. So what I'm trying to get at is, now you might ask these questions. You might be thinking, so what is AI and Gen AI? You can go and you can find this on any railway station. You, me, sitting here can do it one by one. Okay, let's go to all railway stations. That seems to be an area for snackers. Let us all go to all the office centers. seems to be an area of pickup. How much will we do? Right? Humans can't do this. We need machines to throw in 200 such proxy variables. The proxies that I showed you, there are 250 of them. And believe me, when a McDonald's wants to open a store, they would like an ice cream shop like Baskin Robbins. Why not? The TG is the same. So what I'm elucidating here is that how does this scale? It scales because you are continuously matching these 200 variables on the fly and trying to find out as local as possible, 85% coverage, by the way. Not bad. 85% of India can be covered using such micro-market strategy. So next time, food for thought, when you're looking at your whole canvas of India and thinking of network questions, placement questions, penetration questions, reducing the cost of acquisition questions, please make sure you think this micro strategy well. There are ways of scaling it up, so you don't need to do that somebody in the boardroom says judgmentally, okay, no, I think this is how our product should be placed. Data is there, machine is there to do the algorithm search. Where is the value? If you do this right, if you place the product right, you have to send the efficiencies to a tune of 3 to 4% to top line. So that's what we've seen across multiple programs, efficiency levels. So that's the two take on India, AI in many Indias, just one aspect of it. The good part is given the sovereign LLMs that we'll have, the language barrier that we will break. Believe me, insurance is doing exactly using this micro, and we were stuck at the last leg. We were saying, I can't converse. The medical representatives going to the doctor can't converse. Today, we are enabling them with local language. So the conversations are becoming much better. We are cracked the code. So we are in good times. So the theme that I repeatedly want to say is that use many India. We don't have an inhibition anymore to worry about how will we get there, or when I'll get there, will I be able to locally transfer this? All of this is solved. So just you need to figure out what is the strategy, what is the right questions, and then we have the answer. So that's all from my end. This is a quick one for AI in many Indias. Thank you. Okay, our next session, now I'm the agent temp again. Sorry, I'm doing this multi-roles. So Deepa, the next session is very interesting. Like in the last avatar of mine, see I'm playing so many agentic views. Huh? So last avatar I was talking about going all, scaled up, and Deepa was looking at me and saying, cyber is. I said, I was looking at her and staring. So next session is going to be very interesting. Deepa, you want to call out? Use your mic. This is the place where we all have all our risk guards up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deepa.
I would like to welcome Sachin, who heads cloud and infrastructure at Sony, and my colleague Manoj who is from our cyber practice. Okay, it's an exciting time, right? From morning, we've been hearing about AI all through, and there is so much of use cases that are coming on the AI side of things, right? Now, all of you must be wondering, is this session going to be a break to the speed in which we were going through the day, or the break is going to be used to kind of go a lot more faster than we've been going, right? So let's try and see what are the views here in terms of how cybersecurity is going to be playing a role from an AI standpoint, right? So the first thing that I wanted to, talk to you, Sachin, is we had done a report called the Delloite AI at Crossroads. And one of the key findings that we had seen in that report was, if you had a good AI governance, the adoption of AI in an organization is 28% more in organizations which had good AI governance, and in what it translates in terms of revenue was 5% more revenue that the organizations were earning because of good AI governance. In your experience, how have you seen that, and how AI governance has helped in a better adoption of AI?
So, Deepa, when it comes to governance or especially usage of GenAI in the corporate world, people are scared. When the things come up, everybody was scared whether it's gonna be GenAI can be, take out all your data and maybe you can use it for different purposes. The best or the thing which is needed is the assurance, right? How you can make sure you're very secured, and when you use the GenAI, you don't need to worry about, or you can use it safely, right? The first thing which comes in mind when we started talking about GenAI, the most important thing was the ethical part of it. How we can make sure when we use it for the right purpose, and we don't cross the boundaries of ethics. That is, I think, the first thing which came in mind. Secondly, definitely the governance piece from the technical aspect of it, how you are building your security guardrails, what kind of security tools you are using, what kind of policies you are defining it. It makes people feel that you are in safe zone. You can play around with the GenAI. It is getting, a lot of buzzword is coming from the last 1 or 2 years, you have seen a lot of talk happening about it. But good governance, good ethical boundaries, safe environment can definitely help to, increase the adoption and take the real benefit of GenAI. Just don't play around and, run it and make yourself vulnerable. I think it helped people to use it in a real benefit out of GenAI. That's why I see definitely governance play a very big role to make sure people are assured to use GenAI services provided, internally built or bought it from outside, but it helps.
Okay. Thanks, Sachin. It re-emphasizes that if you have a good governance, adoption of AI will be much higher, and making sure that we built in the concepts of ethics also and make it a lot more trustworthy. Thanks for sharing that. Manoj, coming to you, when I read reports from the various market available information, the spend on AI for cyber security was about 24 billion in 2023, and it's supposed to increase to about 134 billion by 2030, and by 2028 it'll be 60.6 billion, which means that they're growing at a CAGR of about 21.9%, whereas the overall spend on cybersecurity, the CAGR is only about 14.8, which itself is pretty huge, but spending on AI for cybersecurity is much faster. What are the use cases that that's the second part of it, is where how AI can help improve cybersecurity. Can you share your experience and some use cases on this topic?
Yeah, so I think traditionally cyber, you're cyber leader, so we tend to sort of monetize the doom and gloom, right? Can go wrong, etc., etc. I'm actually fascinated by AI and cyber in one dimension, in that if you look at a macro level, the biggest problem for cyber was delivering intelligence. Because cyber traditionally, products, etc., relied on three things. One, it relied on rule-based technologies. Second, it relied on integration. That is, someone tries to break into a system, so there is a PAM person, it catches with security operation, it sends an alert with ServiceNow, so that's sort of orchestration. And last was the human ingenuity. But if you talk to a SAC analyst, if you talk to any, everyone's problem was, how do I actually make the sense of rules with data? Where AI is helping is actually come from rules to make it more contextualized. I'll give two examples. One problem that is what we get today, everything is sold as AI. But there are certain examples that machine learning could not solve.
A very good example is people have firewall rules fatigue. Anyway, clients, ideas. Traditional machine learning could not solve that problem because they failed with contextualization. AI actually can solve that. We have seen clients actually solve what could have been a 7-8 month problem into weeks using AI. Because the reason being now AI can actually give some contextualization thinking, the intelligence for the human beings to make it more sense. The second problem is more important, which was unsolvable. If you look at traditional identity, one classic problem both for compliance or the effective, I have entitlement creep and I don't know what this person has. Because if you go to any enterprise, you have Manoj and his sort of lot of mumbo jumbo around entitlements, which I can make a head and sales of. People have done RBAC. We built a couple of clients where I using graphs, models to actually visualize all the entitlements, making some context. Now human beings say, okay, this person looks like X. These three people look similar. I can see the pattern. Visualization gives an ability to intelligence and predict. So for all the thing, I'm very bullish about that AI will add the intelligence layer,
Right.
which traditionally breaks the barrier that all CISOs had this problem that people, business used to say, well, your data, you're always a rear view mirror. You can only explain why breach happened. You can only explain me why things can't be done.
Yeah, yeah,
You can't even tell me what is going to happen.
yeah.
And
Not predictable.
so I think the AI gives that ability to do that. And the reason spend is more is because the CISOs also are being asked. Everyone has a human desire to be safe.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So AI, while it is promising all that, people, human also say, is it three things? Can I trust it? Is it ethical? And is it secure? These three are all same variables of a different dimension.
Yeah.
So that's one reason spend is being driven.
Yeah. Thanks, Manoj. And I've also started seeing a lot of use cases coming in terms of how cyber-related compliances can be managed through AI. So basically, AI is trying to help CISOs look much better in front of their boards, I should say, by using cybersecurity, right? The third dimension that we can kind of discuss is in terms of, right, if you have good governance, revenue increases. There are lot of use cases which can help the CISOs look much better. But the third important is AI is being used against AI, right? What are your views, Sachin, in terms of AI against AI?
So, in general, all world when progresses, all kind of element get progress also, right? You will have a good guys and bad guys together growing and making more intelligent. So it's all about balancing how smart you are to handle the other smart guy, right? We need to be ready with the next level of threats, what kind of vulnerabilities we can handle, and how we make sure that we are ready for it, right? That's the biggest challenge we face as a part of cyber world, I would call it. We prepare ourselves, and you can think of many use cases. We can do a lot of learnings. We can use this kind of models. We can have that kind of setup. But we need to be very smart about it, how you can make sure that you are one step ahead of the threat actors. I don't know how much success we'll get it, but it is the objective we try to achieve it, right?
Yeah.
I think AI helps us in that, and that's the most important part, that you can leverage an AI to achieve that, right?
Yeah, the AI against AI is that famous Sholay verb, loha lohe ko katta hai. The thing is, we use Sony Station. So one of the client actually is doing an experiment using game theory. So computer games are designed based on a reward and a stick. If you play any game, the whole math goes in reward and a stick. So the premise is that you can now tell a machine to induce an attack that it has not seen.
Okay.
Using the game theory.
Right.
Now, it's a bit of an esoteric use case, but in terms of how you can do it, people are doing it. The only challenge with that is in a commercial construct. It is very difficult to define the ROI for it, because it is, if you basically are trying to ask in a very human term, if you have an informer, try to spend basically lot of spurious targets to say, will this human being act like a terrorist? That's the problem you are trying to solve. But in terms of ability to potential, you can now have the potential of technology. You can generate a crawl using computer that was very difficult for a human being to create, because if you created, you would have created a hacker in your own midst anyway.
Right.
So in terms of AI's own potential, second, you can do lots of now simulations.
Okay.
If when a breach happens on a data center, I can use now AI actually to say where my data will go based on my pattern. That power didn't exist before.
Okay.
Previously, people had theoretical ability. People used to call us to create an if then else theorem. So that's the power of AI, which goes back to reasoning, closest to the intelligence.
Right. One question I have, Manoj, for you is to say that whenever automation has come in, there are new threats that have come in. How do you think AI is any different to that?
Not at all. In fact, if you like, actually what we are seeing, I don't know whether you're seeing this, you talk to CISOs, the hacker community is using AI to generate more threats. Because for them now, the cost of labor has gone down. Previously, if you are a bad actor, in order for you to actually go and attack companies, you needed human beings. You had to someone to threat, etc., etc. Now you can use AI. So if you look at the incident, the blast radius, the volumes are going up. The good news is so far, and this is touch wood, most of things are around network and endpoints.
Okay.
i.e., so far AI has not created a privilege ID in a network that can go crawl, compromise an AD, and do all of that. Thank God, touch for that.
Yeah.
But so threats of AI are actually, and they will do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's similar. Maybe the speed in which they get done, maybe
cost has gone down.
Yeah. Yeah.
The cost of a hacker has gone down.
What are your views, Sachin?
I see that it's a matter of time. They reach to the network and endpoint. I think everybody been seeing that endpoint security and network is always been a first point of attack. But I don't see, we need to be ready for the next level. We need to think beyond. Especially, I always believe that cyber world need to think beyond. Others need to think of, because you need to be ready for bigger threats and more secure and more ready for the things you may feel or you may face. So threat actors are there. Definitely ethical hackers or non-ethical hackers, both are available for us. We need to see that how quickly we adapt to things. Yes, definitely at this point of time, touchwood with its network endpoints, still we are in safe zone, but we need to start thinking beyond how they can get inside our network and how they can take advantage of it, and we prepare for that self. So I think that is something work is going on. Everybody think of it, how we can make sure that if anybody reaches to the next level, how we are gonna take care of it. Most important part is, I think, how fast we react on it and safeguard ourselves.
Right.
I think definitely we can stop them, but you need to also think of, even if they get in, how quickly I can get in and stop the, reduce the blast radius, I would say. That's also, it's one of the factor we need to keep in mind. So when we're building or designing architectures or defining our landscape from the governance perspective, one of the most important, or I would say critical part is, I think earlier discussion came about the data pipelines or the use cases you are talking about. You can't spend money on each use case in the same way, right? In case of GenAI, where the impact is huge, the cost is still on a higher side. You need to choose what kind of guardrails or secure environment you are building it. Be focused somewhere. Let's see how much risk you can do it and what you need to safeguard on priority, and you do it very fast. That's both are things very important for us.
Okay. And as far as AI governance and AI policies with respect to AI governance, what do you see as the adoption in your view, in companies? Have they started adopting a lot more of AI governance?
So I deal with financial services, and the AI governance on the business. So most AI at a governance layer is still in the efficiency side of the bucket.
Okay.
Right? So most questions for governance are related to how do I make sure. So some of it is, I think, so mentioning is about people are suffering in anticipation, either people are saving doom and creating governance around it. But most of the AI governance are around efficiency side of AI, largely related to content. What can chatbot spill out? Whether it will be whether that content is pirated and all of that. So those are the governance AI. I haven't seen in financial services currently AI being used for monetizing a banking or a new banking, etc., etc. That generally is happening on prevented use cases, but they always happen, like fraud detection and all that. But those are more on the business side. So we are not seeing that. What is happening within the AI is within security governance. CISOs are now asking a question: if I take an AI-based security product, how do I know what it has done?
Right. Okay.
So that's a new territory. Okay, suppose you had, so we had rule-based products and all, you always knew what was happen. Now you call a AI-based SOC. How do I know which threat actually it has solved for and what was the logic and whether it has missed? Those governance models are still being discussed, but that's my view. I don't know what you guys are saying.
So for corporate like Sony, where we have all kind of product line, a vast variety of product line, whether it's finance, gaming, pictures, electronics, consumer electronics, sports, biotech, and all. It's a bit complicated. We can't fit all the stick everywhere. What approach we have taken, as I mentioned, based on the use cases, how we prepare ourselves. Definitely the basics, we never lost it. We made sure that we are not compromising on security and ethics. That is the first thing we done it before we jump to the gun to start using Gen AI or going beyond the boundaries. And yes, as you mentioned, finance is basically more about agility, whereas the gaming, it's very different from it comes. And when it comes to consumer electronics, it's a very different altogether ball game is there. Yeah, different business, different requirement, different level of security, and the approach of security, it varies.
There's one discussion that's coming up, which I think was probably with the new the DeepSeek probably will evolve differently. But most clients, basically CISOs, were now thinking about how do I educate or ask for business embedding AI into what we could pretty much say is the explainability. Because what's happening is the tension between I want to adopt M365, CISO's call, is it secure? So say, can we make sure? The CISOs have no idea what M365 does. So the vendors or the products, and you can apply this, is the explainability part. Because unless the thing about AI is almost first technology that is closest to human being.
Right.
That is, it acts but can't tell how it acts. There's no audit log of our behavior.
Right.
So the explainability part is what is coming big in governance. Because that is, if I engage with someone, I need explainability. That is a new territory, because traditionally security team was supposed to only say what it does, and there were standard rules on security, and we were supposed to put controls.
Right.
So that change, that's a new muscle for security organizations, that's a new muscle for business to understand security. The great part is, I think, like in case of Sony or all this, intuitively, business owners understand the importance of security, trust, and everything, because it's a deal breaker as far as reputation is concerned.
Okay.
So they just need education. They just need understanding.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the time's up. So just to summarize, the 3 dimension as far as cybersecurity in AI, one is to making sure that we have good AI governance, which includes having the right structure, having the policies, procedures, controls, and also making sure that we do assurance on a regular basis. definitely AI is going to speed things in terms of how cybersecurity can be enhanced. At the same time, we will need to be very watchful in terms of AI in cybersecurity can be very disruptive to the business, and it's a fine balance that we will need to take. So with that, thank you very much, Sachin and Manoj, for sharing your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepa and team. We will have a 5-minute break. There is some tea, so please do have a small networking break.